how are we going to do things differently? And at the end of the day, it's about the people I have. It took me a long time to get the right team, even the leadership team. I've always been a big believer that people can grow into anything. And it's true if you give them the right tools and the right resources. I also am not a big believer that growth is only a trajectory of if you're a salesperson, you're a manager. Not every salesperson should be a manager. No. Not every manager can be a salesperson.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Knowledge Bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Nicolas Breedlove.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Please help me welcome Nicolas with Thriving in Competitive Markets.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I am CEO of NVB Playgrounds. It doesn't have it stands for Nicolas Victor Breedlove. It's my dad and I started this, if you want to say it. He was in the business for a few years, kind of on the bench. He was a little, not quite disabled, but he was going through a lot of health issues back then. Okay. But I thought we started this business. It's a playground equipment business. We sell commercial playground equipment all over the world. I got in at the right time. It was right around the recession, and there was only one other company selling commercial playground equipment online. So I knew I had a big advantage. And they went out of business within a year of the recession. They just had too many houses, too many mortgages. Wow. So our volume went up 1,000-fold in a year, and we just kept doubling and doubling and doubling and tripling, and slowly but surely it brought on more and more opportunities in that realm of commercial playground equipment to be the company we are today, which we are known by a bunch of different trade names, but we're a manufacturer, we're a supplier, we're a distributor, we're all sorts of different things nowadays. So kind of have our hands in a lot of different areas of the business. One of my probably fourth or fifth jobs, I was working at a golf course when I was probably 14, and I was a caddy. And then all of a sudden I was in charge of the entire golf course, shop. And I was, what was I doing? I was trying to create great experience for the customers. What do people want to talk about? They want to talk about themselves. They want to feel like they're cared and respected, and they want to be all those things. And you go to a country club, you really want to be treated like it's your home away from home, but you're catered to, know? And I helped really provide that. I would stand up on a perch and see who was driving into the country club, and I would make sure their clubs were on a cart. The cart was delivered to their car. And that got, I created that kind of intimate experience. Amazing, because that is really what set me apart. And I was able back then get $100 tips. That was a lot of money back then. Now it's still a lot of money, but it's not the same it was. Right. Nothing is quite the same it was.
Wow. Nicolas, this is really very interesting. I mean, because you're saying a lot of key things to what business looked like. And you just kind of broke it down. And I heard something, I won't say Zig Ziglar, say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And here you are, you're showing that you care, but not only you doing that, there's a problem. You said about the country club, you kind of knew what the gentleman wanted, right? And you just gave them what they wanted. Sometimes people get into business and they experience failure because sometimes people in their own head, it's about them and what they want or whatever. And sometimes somebody have an idea that nobody cares about, only the person that has the idea. And
no doubt.
They fail at it because it's like, nobody even want this, but you offered it to them. I want you to kind of walk us through that. Let's talk about the playground.
It's a great question because it leads into so many different things, right? I go to this little bitty town in Mexico, Missouri once a year, and I meet a bunch of CEOs I've met over the course of my life,
Mhm.
and we talk about for a variety of things. We're just there for maybe a day a year, maybe two
Mhm.
days max. But one of the questions we ask ourselves, well, we ask everybody in the group is, why would we do business with you, right?
Mm.
And why would we do business with you? And back when I was younger, I would say because I'm quick ship, because I'm the lowest price, because I've got blah. Who cares, right? There's so many things that you think are important as a business owner, but it took me a long time really. It's not like I came to it one day. It took me a long time to really realize, you know, who is my customer? What the heck do they want? And how am I actually delivering them anything of value?
Yeah.
Because even after 10 years of selling playgrounds, did I really understand it? Not entirely. I
Mm.
feel like I have a better concept at this point. When I think of my customers and what I'm doing, I think of three different groups of people. I think of the kids, and that's an obvious one. It could be cliche if you don't think about it right, but what I think about is I'm giving kids a space where they can take risks, but it is in the effort of building their confidence, right? So
Mm. Wow.
they're building confidence by risks. They're climbing up something, right? I'm creating a space where they can do that and not hurt themselves, ideally,
Yeah.
avoidable risks, right?
Yeah.
There's always a way to get hurt on a playground, knock on wood, but you're creating that. So that's what I'm doing for the kids. For the customers, which I consider a playground operator or owner, so you have maybe a child care center, maybe it's a truck stop, maybe it's a school, a park, it could be anything. We've put playgrounds everywhere, right? I think about the operator and I say, what are we doing for them? Generally speaking, we're giving them, that is where community starts. And that's
Mm.
something I feel like is really missing in society is community.
Yeah.
And so we're giving them a space where they can provide their community a place to build. It's where you learn the kids learn each other's names. It's where you meet your neighbor. That's where you meet the families around you. That's where community and society starts is in those spaces, right?
Yeah.
And so we get this great opportunity, and that's why I do what I do, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm able to provide that. And my last reason why we do what we do is because I want my employees and my business partners, all of the entrepreneurs. So we supply playground equipment to about 300 different organizations out there that resell it. So there are distributors.
Wow.
And we want all of them and all of our employees to live a fulfilled life.
Mm.
Whatever that means to them. Maybe they want to make a lot of money, maybe they don't want to. That doesn't matter. I just want them to live a fulfilled life,
Yeah.
one they're proud of, and be a part of this. And that's what I want. So those are my big customers. That's why we do what we do. And I can honestly say it took me a long time to figure out that's why I do what I do.
Wow.
But that is the drive.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Man, and it sounds really good. I'm listening. You explained to me about playgrounds, and you basically introduced something to me that was already there. I mean, I have these emotions. I'm thinking about, my kids at the playground at the park, and brought that community and meeting the neighbors and things like that. So that's awesome. And I just want to personally thank you on behalf of all the parents in the communities. Thank you for doing what you're doing. That is so, so, so amazing.
I am very grateful to do what I do every day, man.
I mean, so we had 9/11, we had 2008, COVID, all those different things. What was the thought process of you guys even surviving through all of those different life changing and
You
throughout the
know,
years?
I look at the world we live in and it's tough, man. It's so
Mm.
tough. You got tariffs right now. You got so many different things.
Yeah.
There's always something, right? There's always going to be something.
Mm.
But the reality is there that nowadays there's never a moment of peace,
Mm.
right? There isn't, and there hasn't really been for a long time. And I don't know. I strive in chaos,
Mm.
and it's being able to adapt on the fly, and kind of that's where I differ from a lot of our competitors. So we have three major competitors in the business, and the rest of it has really consolidated they've bought up everybody else, and they're
Mm,
all billion-dollar brands. So it
yeah.
gives us a lot of flexibility on that. But when those struggles happen, I mean, I look at those, and I'm not too concerned ever on the national problems.
Mm,
I'm more concerned on because, like, let's say there's a recession, right? Okay, there could be a recession, right? We might already be living in one, but is that supposed to affect me?
mm,
How? There's a lot of companies out there that could go out of business, but I could take their business and now I can have a better year.
yeah.
Why am I not affected by that?
Yeah.
The recession across the United States does not mean every state is in a recession. It means as a whole we are in a recession.
Yeah.
But that is not the world I live in. I don't buy into that ideology. I buy into the ideology that I can do whatever the heck I want,
Yeah.
and I will continue doing a great job because there's always more business to be done. And if there comes a point where there wasn't, like in COVID, that was tough. You had children, nobody wanted to touch each other. It was a weird time in the world,
Yeah.
but we still made it work. I'd say if out of all the problems that I encounter as a business owner, it's not really the national problems. It's not those little things like that, or not little, but big things like that. It's more about the internal ones that you come up with, right? Like for me, I had a big moment in my company where I had you have to face betrayal, right? When you have to face something like that within the company where somebody's doing something maybe they shouldn't be doing or working
Mm,
against your own company, those are the moments where I feel like you're really tested. When it
yeah.
comes to recessions and all those types of things, I think that with the right strategy, you can make your tactics can work.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it, though.
Yeah, that's good. Nick, you talked about how you say you started the business. You say your dad from a bench, and you started. So it's you and your dad. You're doing it. I want to talk about like at what point when you begin to scale it, right? Begin to scale it, getting the right team. I mean, work me through how did that process go? When just some of those things that come to your
Sure.
memory and growing.
Yeah. So Vic, he's my dad. He started with me, but we were doing something completely different. We were
Hmm.
selling playgrounds in a whole different way. It wasn't anything like we were doing. And I decided, yeah, I can't do this. I can't just be cold calling people all day long. It's not my
Mm,
deal.
yeah.
It was a singular strategy, just didn't make any sense. I was like, we need a website. We need to get this going. So I started coding a website.
Mm,
And then within, a month, we were doing business online. Within 2 months, we were doing a lot of business online.
uh,
5 months, 6 months, 7 months. And back then, we were working out of a house. So
mm,
scaling meant that, one of my uncles that lost his job in the recession, he came to work for me. He actually retired with me just last year.
wow, it's amazing.
Not a lot of people last that kind of long length, have that longevity in a company like that. And me and
Uh,
him have gone to battle many times.
uh,
But that's the difference with people of his generation is like, it's like they know how to argue and not be disappointed about the argument. And I can take it and
uh,
I'm going to be wrong all the time. Okay,
uh,
give it to me. Tell me
uh,
why you're right. Tell
uh,
me why I'm wrong.
uh,
Whatever. So I think that scaling, he would wake me up on the side of the bed, and that was awful. Then we built out the basement, and we still have some people from back then as well. They still tell the stories about how they interviewed in the basement, and their friend waited in the car because they thought they were going to get, it was going to be a CSI episode or something, playground company in a basement. Yeah, no. And then we purchased some land. We built our first warehouse and didn't have any debt. And we started importing. So I had bought a bunch of different domains. I own playgrounds.com, playgroundequipment.com. I own hundreds of exact match domains, high value, and start building it. I started building out a manufacturer company. So I thought, of all these companies we were doing business with, they were all terrible. Um, terrible service, terrible product, inconsistent. And I thought, wow, like if this is a standard, which it is, everybody has it. It's like all I have to be is a half an inch better than that, and I can have my own brand, right?
That's
Super
great.
easy, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's not easy. It is not easy, but I did that, and that's what I did. And so we started, designing our own equipment, bringing it in from all over the world into our warehouses, and we were repackaging it as playgroundequipment.com product. And now we have a lot of distributors through there. We've got distributors through some of our other websites as well. And, we have operations in Savannah, Georgia, Houston, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana, and then opening out West Coast, probably, I'd say, probably second quarter of next year.
Man, I really want to talk, seeing the problem and creating the strategy around the problem is, and it sounds like you've done this time and time again, but what's your process like? Or is it just you throw paint on the wall and just watch it dry? I mean, what is it? What is it?
I don't usually watch it. I just walk away at that point. Uh, that's what my COO, she would say, I'm the caveman. I start a fire in a room and she goes and puts it out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, I mean, like, I'll use a recent reference, for example. So there's a national trade show, big one in NRPA, which is National Park and Rec Association.
Mm,
And all those billion-dollar brands, they all love to sponsor that, right? And a sponsorship is $1 million. They
mm.
probably spend 4 or 5 million each on the show every year.
Um,
And I would guess that they get under $100,000 in leads from a $5 million show, but they bring in all of their people, and it's this, it's like it's not quite ego, but
mm,
it is very close to it, and you wonder like, okay, so there are parks and there are schools there. There are a few customers, not as many as there used to be. Trade shows aren't popular as they used to be.
yeah,
So me, I look at that and I say like, they're on everything. They're on your pens, they're on your floors, you can't beat their advertising.
yeah,
So how do you compete with it? Well, okay, so you can be the most popular guy there in regards to you can be a speaker at all of the actual, parts of the show, right? And all
yeah,
of a sudden they can't cancel you in there because you're the smart guy speaking about playground safety. One of our SDRs following up with them, right? And meanwhile, I got to have an in-person with, 300 people. They have a booth that they man, but I get to actually talk to the people directly. So what was I able to do? You could flip it on its head a little bit and say, how can I change this situation where I feel like the cards are stacked against me because I don't have the funds to participate in this weird display. How can I take it and turn it into something for the company, benefit everybody here? At the end of the day, that's been the story since day one. When we first started doing this, nobody thought you could sell a 50,000 or 100 or heck, we've sold $500,000 playgrounds online. How do you do that? Well, they thought there was no way, right? Now, if you're not online, you're out of business. There's no
yeah,
way. You can't, what are you gonna, you got a catalog somewhere? Did you print it?
yeah,
Did you deliver it by hand?
yeah.
No.
So what's in your head? What's going on in your mind that you're able to see some of these things before it even happened? 2010, starting a YouTube channel was huge. I mean, you're like in the world by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Now everybody is flooded with YouTube channels, but 15 years ago that wasn't the case. I remember this young guy, and he was like doing interviews on like clocks and things like that back in like 2012, and now he's a big guru. I mean, he's like he do Apple. I mean, they send him all kind of stuff. He review everything. And I look at him, he was just a kid that just put himself in the space. So my question is like, for here, 2025, I mean, things, most people are like, man, everything is cluttered. How are you? How are you, Nicholas, finding that space or whatever, to re-innovate or to do something that nobody's quite doing? Because I'm listening to you. I mean, it's like you're doing getting stuff and you're doing stuff before, sometimes others even see it. And when they see it, it's already too late.
I think for the entrepreneur that's coming up, I think right now, man, it is so easy to start a business, easier than it ever has been.
Yeah,
It's just there are so few people that are actually capable of having that gene to get it done and like saying, I'm gonna continue with the drive no matter what. And this is painful and it's awful and it's the worst experience and best you'll ever have in your life.
yeah,
But, do you have the drive? Right now, anybody, man, with the right prompt, you could probably AI a website and by the time this interview is over, right?
yeah,
So, the tools are there right now more so than ever, like you said. It's like YouTube back then, or his websites right now. So, how do you differentiate yourself? What is your unique selling ability? For us, we have that inventory, which our distributors love because, you know, we have the relationships we've been building for a long time with distributors, with customers.
mm,
And then you have to add accessories to that all the time.
yeah,
So what like, we do a lot of we have a team of about 10 designers on staff. They design playgrounds, so it's custom playgrounds. They're in the 3ds Max and all these design tools all day long. But I have a separate team, an AI team. It's one guy team, but he created a tool where they can put in a real image in the background, and have it done in about 2 minutes. So fast you'll freak. It's Jimmy John's for what my team does, and it takes them hours, right? On rendering servers that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And I
yeah,
have another team working on how can we keep them, but also, how can we not bloat our headcount while also making sure that we are super effective at our jobs, right? I want to be able to keep everybody, hire the right people, and make sure that everybody is super effective and efficient at what they do. And that's how we stay hyper competitive in this space because there's always, when it comes to our business, overseas competitors is huge, and they always come in the market. Usually they're here for 2 or 3 years, but they disrupt things like crazy.
mm,
So, but fortunately in this market I'm in, it's, backed by schools, it's backed by public, it's big corporations. Those are a little slower moving operationally.
yeah.
If they hear the word AI, they're still going to be thinking about Terminator in 3 years, right? So they're not going to be thinking about how could we, speed up our processes based on this. How can we use, how are we going to do things differently? And at the end of the day, it's about the people I have. It
Yeah,
took me a long time to get the right team, even the leadership team. I've always been a big believer that people can grow in anything. And that's true if you give them the right tools and the right resources. But I do believe that some people's experience is just going to outweigh no matter what. And I also am not a big believer that growth is only a trajectory of if you're a salesperson, you're a manager. Not every salesperson should be a manager.
yeah,
Not every manager can be a salesperson.
yeah,
And, I think that my brain had to be reset to understand that because I didn't always promote people the right way.
mm,
So I probably put people in the wrong seats a few times. And I
mm.
think as a new entrepreneur, if you're making sure you're not making this basic mistakes that everybody talks about, which is wrong person, wrong seat, I think but those are easier said than done.
Knowledge bomb. This is so good. This is so good. It's interesting talking to you. You bring up something, and I mean, it's like I don't know. It's an introduction to so many different things. I mean, even that aspect. You mentioned in your book, you talked about how learning the most from your failures. Most people look at failures as what it is, but you looked at it as lessons. What did you come to that point when you equated learning with failure?
Like give up your ego,
Yeah,
because it's gonna get smashed to bits, right?
yeah,
And as soon as I was able to do that more so and realize that not everything is under my control,
yeah,
um, but also that very little that's going to defeat me in this world. How am I going to learn from all these situations and get better? Otherwise, I will stay the same forever.
Mm.
I mentioned the betrayal earlier, and that was, big failure I felt on my behalf. And it's one of those moments that a lot of entrepreneurs face, but nobody likes to talk about, like how, I had an employee that was stealing essentially from us for years.
Mm.
And, you get to a point and you say, how did I miss that? How did I let this happen to myself? And it's
Yeah.
like, but at the end of the day, that person, you can't, how can I've got to give that up. I have to be able to trust everybody.
Yeah.
What did I learn from that? I learned that it's okay to still trust people, but you
Yeah.
need to verify.
Yeah.
I have to have the right systems in place.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the right systems back then. We were scaling too fast for me, and I was not prepared. I had 16 direct reports. I had a
Mm.
bad one sneak through, and he ran us for our money.
Wow.
But and every failure, there's always going to be that moment. Whether it's we learned how, I think it was our third year in business, a China, I think it was a Korean shipping company went out of business, left a bunch of so we have anywhere from 100 different containers on the water at any one time.
Mm.
It went out of business, so they went bankrupt on the ocean. I think it was Hanjin. I don't know the exact name, but
Wow.
all of a sudden there's vessels on the news and they're just sitting out there and the crews are abandoning them. And I see, our containers, I don't see it, but I know my containers on that ship right there. 6 months later, we saw our goods. It's hard. I had to reorder all that equipment, right?
Jeez.
And that's a big loss, right? But what I learned I need to really find a really, really good shipping partner. So I was reluctant, or I was relentless with Maersk, which is one of the largest shippers in the world, and I negotiated a really good relationship. We went to Baltimore for probably 2 years during COVID
Mm.
because COVID, the shipping lanes, they were backed up everywhere. There was ports. I don't know if you remember the news, but there was hundreds of vessels sitting in Long Beach, and in Chicago there were stacking containers into cornfields because they didn't have enough storage and there were not enough drivers because there was weird laws being written about you can only work so many hours a week if you're delivering a truck delivery.
Mm.
So it was just backlogs everywhere. So we had to go and we said, okay, we're screwed if we don't figure this out. So we opened up a warehouse in about 20 days with no lease, about 150,000 feet in Baltimore, and started getting containers in out there, started a whole new operation. I moved one of my senior guys. He's senior. He was 24 at the time, but he'd been with me for 6 years, and now he's been with me for longer, lot longer than that. And he started up my Baltimore operation, and then he moved from Baltimore when we closed that down to Savannah and Houston, and now he's back in Indianapolis. He will say thank you for, but so it was a big problem. We had a lot of containers sitting everywhere, and how did I do it? We had an opportunity in Baltimore, and we made it happen. And it was just one more thing where all of a sudden nobody was able to ship anything. We were able to come through and made it happen.
Wow, thriving in chaos. Oh my goodness, Nick, this is so crazy, man. And I think that's really awesome. I'm listening to you, and I think that's really awesome about your personality able to do that because some people, when things like that happen, they can't even think. They can't even think. And most people go out of business because they pretty much gave up before they gave up because they gave up here in their mind. And you said something. You talk about the trust aspect, and it's really interesting how trust, right? It's like you have to, in order to build a business, you have to trust your team. And for something like that to happen, I believe, and I want you to speak to that entrepreneur right now that, but whether it's a startup, you got your first employee and it didn't work out. And now you then took on all this stuff yourself and you're scared to give it to somebody else because of that lack of trust because it's like man I know I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna get it right, I'm not gonna fail, I'm not gonna do this, if I do it it's gonna happen. but you have to trust somebody else or you're going to stay stagnated. I want you to talk to that person and help somebody out right now that's listening and like, yeah, Nick, I hear you, man, but it's hard.
It is trust is very difficult, especially, for an entrepreneur, we a lot of us have this. I don't know if it's in our brain. Some of us, it's like we can do it ourselves, or if you can't get done, it's not going to get done right if it's not me.
Yeah.
And that's a I used to live by
That's
that.
a big lie.
If it can't get done by me, then
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be doing it anyways. But I think of trust. I think of like every time that I have to, when it comes to employees, I need to give them at least four or five good things before I can ask for anything, right?
Mm,
Because otherwise, all I'm doing is taking. I'm a vampire, right?
mm,
I need to put my trust bucks or whatever you want to call them, and I need to deposit those over the course of time before I can just ask them for something.
yeah.
And if I don't have that faith from them that I'm not just constantly just pulling on them for what I'm a bad leader, and it's because trust, it ends up being a big currency in the workplace. And
Mm,
that's why I've had people work for me for 18, 19 years, 10 plus years, a lot of people at 10 years.
yeah.
And I think without that, they would have been gone a long time ago, right? And I think that's part of it. But knowing that a betrayal is always going to happen,
Yeah.
and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just not wasting the time to think about why did it happen to me. It's so easy to get bent out of shape and burn all your fuel on what has just happened, but it's already over. It's easier said than done, but it's over and on to the next, and let's make something out of this. I think that it really helps if you're passionate about what you do, because if you're not passionate and it's not your obsession, for me, I'm obsessed about working. I love to work. I
Yeah.
love I love being able to provide that place. When I first started, I only knew the first part. I only knew the last answer to the question.
Mm,
When I said why I do what I do, because of my people, because of my vendors, because I like giving people that life. That was
yeah.
always my answer. I
Mm,
didn't have the first two parts right for a long time about my customer and about the kids. I didn't
yeah.
understand that, but I knew that
Jeez.
last part. And that's why I've done well with people, is because I've been able to put those trust bucks. But once you scale, and we're at 160 to somewhere around there employees, once you get there, it's really tough to be able to communicate with everybody.
Mm,
So what am I at? I send a Loom video to people. I pick 10 to 15 people that have been called out in some way in a huddle or by their leader of some kind, and I'll thank them. It comes from my heart. I'm very gracious. I'm very thankful that they're with us and whatever it is that they did. And I'll send them a quick video, and it's maybe 30 seconds, but that's from me.
yeah.
So whatever you can do as a leader,
It's
and
amazing.
that's what you should
Amazing.
do. I think, was it the Schultz from Starbucks,
Mm.
back when he was in charge of it. I think he used to write. I think he devoted his Fridays for a few
I heard
hours.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
thank you letters, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in the thank you economy. I
Yeah.
think that you do it to your customers, and your employees are also your customers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Knowledge bomb. This is great. And Nicholas, I want to personally thank you for sharing that because I think one of the big problems, even in that aspect of people giving up, people quitting, because most people don't share that story. Nobody want to share those dark moments, and people want to share the highlights. And so you have another entrepreneur, they see that and they think like, man, something wrong with me because everybody only talking about the games they won, but nobody want to talk about the losses and or even the practice and the broke leg and all this stuff that happens behind the scenes. Nobody want to talk about that. The only thing we want to talk about is how many points we put up today in this game, and I think it's horrible.
Yeah, it's the way everybody wants to. Let's see my new car. Show you how much I scored, but it ain't that fun under the hood sometimes.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that, because that's definitely huge. I definitely want the Lead to Greatness audience to know how they can connect with you. I'll talk about where they can find your book. And again, thank you for being who you are as you continue on your journey and making this world, communities, a better place, man. Thank you for that.
Appreciate what you do, man. It's awesome when anybody that does this for business groups and business organizations, and just being able to talk to people about entrepreneurship and all this, man, it opens up a lot of eyes to people, and hopefully it inspires some people and maybe gets you some business as well.
Definitely. I know it will. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, Nicholas, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you, sir.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.